I've had my hair sitting in braids for the past like 3 days. The ends, you can tell where the hair tie was, but they're so crispy. I was like, I should maybe like get out my curling iron and just try to like curl the little ends, but they're so crispy and damaged. I need a haircut so bad that I think that might just like literally fry them off. So they're just gonna look a little crusty at the ends there, but it is what it is because honestly, I don't care to do my hair today. I wanted minimal effort and doing my makeup was enough effort for me today. So last year in December, I ended up doing a TBR retrospective video looking back at all of my TBRs from the year and how I did on them. If I read the books and liked them, and if I didn't, if they're still on my TBR, and if I didn't read them and I don't want to read them anymore. So that ended up being kind of a lot in one video, so I'm gonna break it up now and do the first half of the year. So this is my TBR retrospective of January through June, and I'm also gonna be looking at my 23 books to read in 2023 TBR, which, spoiler alert, we're not doing so hot on. But anyways, let's go ahead and just jump right in. I'm not gonna give like full reviews of the books if I have read them. It's like a little brief overview. But yeah, let's go ahead and start. Okay, so back in January, I think this was my best month on my TBR. I did really good on this month. So the first 3 books I have are Balance, Execution, and Release by Lucia Franco. I'll just probably put one of them up here. These are on here because we were in the middle of doing an Off Balance reread along leading up. Well, for me, it was a reread. For some people, it could have been their first time reading it, but we were doing that at the beginning of the year for Out of Bounds release coming up. I think that ended up coming out in like February. And I reread these 3 books, and I mean, y'all know at this point, these are like my favorite books ever. It's my favorite series. I love them so much. And so obviously I reread all 3 of them, and I still love and would recommend them all. Then I had The Frat Boy by Nikki Sloan. This was one of my book club picks. I ended up reading this one. I really enjoyed this. This might be tied for my favorite of the Nashville Neighbors series. I still really love The Doctor, which is the first one, but The Frat Boy was really good. It definitely delivered on the spice, and these are just like such fun, easy reads that I can't wait. I think Nikki Sloan is writing a 5th one. Is it The Good Girl? I'm pretty sure there's actually like a title reveal. Is there maybe even a cover reveal at this point? I'm really excited and will definitely read any more that she releases in this series. Then Bliss by A.R. Breck. This was another book club book for me, and unfortunately, I did read it. I did not like this one at all. I wouldn't recommend it. Where the Mountains Meet the Sea by A.R. Breck is one of my all-time favorite books. I love and recommend that book all the time. However, this one just did not work for me. Sinner by Sierra Simone, the second book in her Priest series. I did read it and absolutely loved it. I actually loved it more than Priest. Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home by Jessa Hastings. This is book 3 in the Magnolia Parks universe, but the second book of BJ and Magnolia. Absolutely loved it. At the time, this was my top book of the month. I think now another one would have replaced it, but I really, really loved this book. It just gave such an extra layer to Magnolia and BJ's relationship and gave so much context to it of truly why the two of them can like have such a magnetic attraction to each other. It is so good. Absolutely loved it. Then Bloody Heart by Sophie Lark. This is book 4 in the Brutal Birthright series. I did read this one. I did really enjoy it. Not my favorite. I'd say it's probably... Honestly, it might be my least favorite in the series, but even with that said, I still really, really enjoyed it. Managed by Kristen Callahan. I have still not read this. I still want to. I haven't been reading a lot of rockstar romances, so this has kind of like been put on the back burner, but I do still really want to read this. American Prince by Sierra Simone. This was my first DNF of the year. I did start this and I never finished it. I started the audio of it. I really like Sierra Simone's writing, but this series, as soon as I started the second book, I was like, I just don't think I'm gonna like it. And I don't honestly know why I even tried to keep going with it, because even though I liked American Queen, I really did not like the heroine, and the circumstances that the heroine is in, starting in this first book, I could already, or in the second one, I could already tell she was gonna piss me off. So I know so many people love it. I love the political aspect of it because like I love scandal and like stuff like that, but this, no. Then Phantom by Greer. I haven't read this yet, or Greer Rivers. I haven't read this yet. I still really want to, still a priority read of mine. I absolutely love Phantom of the Opera. I have a tattoo of it, so I definitely want to read this at some point. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. My Life in Shambles by Karina Halley. So I have read this. I didn't read it in January. I actually read it in May or June. Loved it. I loved this book. It truly could be one of my top books of the year. The connection between these characters was like next level amazing. And then Hidden Scars by Andy Jackson. I have still not read this book yet and I still want to. It's MM Hockey. I love the cover of this one. I definitely still want to read it, just haven't gotten around to it yet. Okay, then in February, Twist and Dismount by Lucia Franco, the last 2 books in the Off Balance series. Again, we were continuing with our read along and I read both of them. Love them. Twist is like literally a top book of all time for me. Next, Bad Wrong Things by C.P. Harris. This was a book club pick. It's an MM best friend's dad romance. This was fine. Honestly, I can't really even remember anything that specific about it. Didn't love it, didn't hate it. It was a book. Then I had 6 of Crows and Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo on here for a reread. There were a few of us who did like a 6 of Crows reread, and I just never ended up rereading them for them. Granted, I had just read 6 of Crows in 2021, but like it was still fairly fresh on my mind, and I just didn't end up getting around to rereading them. I still love that duology so much. Like, it's not that I didn't want to, I just didn't end up having the time to do it, so I didn't read those again, but I have read and loved. Then A Place Without You by Julianne. I read this one. Cheyenne had picked books for me to read, and I picked books for her to read for a reading vlog, and this was one of hers. I really enjoyed this one. It's a guidance counselor student romance, and I just was really impressed with Julianne's writing, so I would definitely like to read more from her. And then Stitches by Sam Mariano was the other one that she picked for me, and I loved this book. It was so good. Then The Forbidden Man by Karina Halley. I still have not read this one, and I still want to at some point. From the Embers by Ellie Martinez. This was a buddy read with one of my friends. I did read this. I liked it. I didn't love it. I don't know. It was fine. I would like recommend it if you're interested, but like it's not one where I'm like, oh my gosh, if you don't read this book, you're missing out. You know, like it was fine. Then Offside by Avery Keelan. I read this and loved it. Y'all know this is a new adult college hockey romance between rival schools, like a team captain from a rival school and then a girl from another school. I loved it, and I definitely want to read book 2 soon. Royally Screwed by Emma Chase. Still really want to read this one. This one has been on my radar for so long, and I just need to be back in the royalty mood. I was really in a royalty mood at the beginning of the year because I read Spare by Prince Harry, and then I was just like, give me all the royalty romances, so I put this on there, and then I fell out of that, and I haven't been back into it, but do still really want to read that. 5 by Lily White. Again, another big priority for me. So many of my friends love this one and say how like wild and messed up it is. That is right up my alley. So I still really want to read this one, just haven't gotten around to it. And I think this one has like a psychological aspect to it too, which is fun and could be what I need because I'm just like really in a slump. And lastly, In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. I don't know who the author is because I ran out of space to write it in, but I'll put the picture up here. This is a thriller and I still really want to read it. I'm just really picky with thrillers. I feel like if I read a romance, I kind of know what to expect, but then you can get little twists and turns along the way that like only enhance the enjoyment of it, where I feel like with a thriller, I can be vibing the whole time, but if the end sucks, if the plot twist sucks, it ruins the entire book for me, and then I don't even like the whole thing. So I'm really, really picky with my thrillers. However, this one sounds really good, and I know Zay said that it's kind of like Pretty Little Liars-esque. Right, this was the one, right? No, am I overthinking that? I don't know. I still want to read it. Okay, then we got March. I still did pretty good on this one. We're still looking at pretty good territory when we get to April and June. Those were some bad months TBR wise, but March I still did pretty good. So Deadly Gossip by Brittany Nicole. This was again another book club pick. I read it. I liked it. I didn't love it. I think it was too long, and it did have like a bit of a thriller-ish element to it, even though it is a romance, and I just felt like it could have been elevated. Like it was there, but it didn't like go all the way there, and I just felt like there were ways to like make it more exciting and more dynamic, and it didn't. So I don't know, it was fine, whatever. And Was I Ever Here by Naomi Loud, another book club pick. Absolutely loved this one. I was completely blown away by the writing, completely blown away by the characters. It was very unique, very original. I haven't read any book that is like this, honestly. And that I think is really hard to find now. And also just to find a book, again, where the like connection between the characters feels like deeper and like on a more emotional level. And I was really, really impressed by this. This is Naomi Loud's debut book, and I was blown away by their writing. Next up, Deliver by Pam Godwin. So this one I didn't read in March. I actually just read it this month, but I still read it, so check it off the list. And I really enjoyed this one. It's definitely not my favorite Pam Godwin romance. However, it is a trafficking romance, and I have never found one that worked for me, but this one really did. And obviously you just have to, I don't want to spoil anything, but I think the circumstances of it are not like a lot of the other ones that I have read. And in this one, the heroine is the captor and the hero is the captive, which was really different and cool. And I definitely would like to continue on with the series. But I was really impressed by this one. Next, Power by Cassandra Robbins. I did read this one and I did really enjoy it. It's just really hot and fun, and it's a mom's boyfriend romance. So like, you get what you get with it. Next up, Untouchable by Sam Mariano. I did read this one and I really enjoyed it. My biggest struggle with it was that I did not think that it was, I think I was expecting it to be darker, and it honestly wasn't really dark to me. And also they're in high school, and I just found some of it, like, I get why they had to be in high school. I do understand, like, for the way that the story went, why they had to be in high school. I was just like, some of the things that they were saying, I'm like, you're not high schoolers. I don't know. Sorry. My contacts are getting to be like more and more irritating to my eyes, and I really don't like that because I'm really don't want to get LASIK, but I also really don't want to have to get to a place where I can only wear my glasses. Ugh. Next up, Damaged Like Us by Krista Becca-Ritchie. I did read this. I have an entire reading vlog reading the first 5 books in the Like Us series. I absolutely loved this book. I love Mafia and Pharaoh. I just love this entire world of the Hales, the Cobalts, and the Meadows, and just like this entire family. So I really loved it. Ivan by Sophie Lark. Which was this? Oh, this one is the female assassin trying to assassinate the mafia boss, and she almost does it, and then he takes her captive, but he's like kind of impressed by her because she made it farther than other people have. I really liked this one. It's not my favorite Sophie Lark book, but I did really enjoy it a lot. Blindside by Candy Steiner. I still have not read this one, and I still want to. I just haven't really been in like the sports romance mood, so maybe at some point. Next up, The Prince's Bride by J.J. McAvoy. Again, when I was in my royalty era. So this one I did read and I did really like. However, it's a royalty romance, but they spent the entire time in America because the prince came over here to try to court her. And I was like, I don't want to be here. Take me to your country, which I think book 2 goes to his country, but obviously I'm really bad at finishing series. So I would like to finish eventually, but this one I was just like sick of being in the US. I was like, I straight up don't want to be here when you have like a cool country to go to. Golden Wings and Pretty Things by Kaylee King. I still haven't read it, and I still want to. I think this is an ex's dad's romance. I'm still interested in it, just haven't gotten to it. River of Shadows by Karina Halley. Again, I haven't gotten to, but still am really interested in, especially after how much I read and loved My Life in Shambles. Torment Part 1 by Dylan Page. Still really want to read this. I'd say this is one of the dark romances that is at the top of my list to read. I have been really interested in this book for a long time. I just never like have gotten around to it, but again, really want to read at some point. The Right Move by Liz Tom Ford, also really want to read. I read Mile High and I liked it. I'm kind of scared because everyone like loves The Right Move and like loves it, like is obsessed with it. And I'm scared that I'm not gonna like it. I do want to read it at some point, but. And then Highest Bidder by Sarah Kate, the 5th book in the Salacious Players Club series. I did read, did really enjoy. Still not my favorite. Mercy's not gonna be topped probably for me ever, but I still really liked it. Then we got on to April. That's Sick Love by Jessie Hall, another book club pick. Read it, absolutely loved. Might be in my top books of the year again. Brazen by Lola Finn, another book club pick. This was a little novella taking place at this little cove, this like summer country club kind of place. It's like Lava Springs, but like bougier, and with like older people, not like older people, but like college-aged people working there and all hooking up and having fun. And this one is a dad's best friend one. Loved it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It hit the spot that it needed to hit at the time, so really liked it. And Lovers Like Us by Kristen Becca-Ritchie. This is the 2nd book in the Like Us series. Again, loved it. One of my faves. The Sinner by Chantal Tessier. I still have not read this yet. I still really want to. I actually have it downloaded on my Kindle. I just haven't been in the mood for it. However, Chantal Tessier's books, they like, I haven't had one that I like love where I'm like 5 stars obsessed. But every single one that I've read, I thoroughly enjoy my time reading them. So I feel like maybe I need to give this one a go and kind of like break my slump a little bit with it. Next up, Without You by Marley Valentine. I did read this one and really enjoyed it. It's an MM Dead Brothers Exes romance. I listened to the audiobook of this. Teddy Hamilton was one of the narrators, and I really, really enjoyed the audio and just really enjoyed the story. It was emotional, but not as emotional as I thought it was going to be, but still like a lot of depth there. Then Loving Mr. Daniels by Brittany C. Cherry. I couldn't believe that I hadn't read this one yet. I feel like one of the most well-known student teacher books, and y'all know I eat anything up student teacher, and I really enjoyed this one. And also it takes place it takes place so close to me, like where I live, the setting of this. I was like, this is wild. Musical Lights and Ever After by C.L. Matthews. I should have DNF'd this one, and I didn't. So I read it, and it didn't click with me. 3 Hard Lessons by Nikki Sloan. I still want to read this. This is the second book in, I forget what series this is called, but it's like her kind of like Spicy Club kind of series. I really enjoyed book 1, and I think this got put on KU, so I still want to keep going with them at some point. Still Love by Danielle Allen. I still really want to read this one. I just need to be back in my like Love is Blind era because this came out, and I'm pretty sure it's a similar premise to that. It's like a dating show, and these two meet on it like that. And back when this released, that was like when the last season of Love is Blind came out, and I was like in it, in the thick of it. And then once I was out of it, I was like, I don't feel like reading that anymore. So I still want to, maybe like when the next season comes out and I'm back in that mood. Next up, Fake Empire by C.W. Farnsworth. I still really want to read this one. I have just been so burnt out on billionaire romances, so I still really want to read this. I just like can't bring myself to read another billionaire book right now, or I will like stab my eyeballs out. Yeah, same with King of Pride by Anna Huang. I love Anna Huang. I have read not every single book, because I haven't read her one like more YA series, but all the Twisted series and King of Wrath, I either had arcs or I read them like the day that they came out. I absolutely love all of her books. I just, like I said, even though I love her books, I can't get myself to read this one right now because I just don't want another billionaire right now. But I will read it eventually. It's like a high priority for me. Next, I read Wretched by Emily McIntyre. I did read this one. I absolutely loved it. I listened to the audiobook and loved it. Scarred is still my favorite, but I really, really enjoyed this. And I've been loving the audios for these. So if you have Hoopla, my library has the first 3. I'm waiting for them to get twisted, but I have really, really enjoyed listening to them that way. This is Iced Out by C. Ritchie. I haven't read this one. I know is it MM too? And it's a hockey romance. Again, I just haven't been in a hockey mood again. And lastly, The Auction. It's a Hermione fan fiction, and I just haven't been in the mood. Well, actually, I'm currently reading a Hermione fan fiction, but I just haven't wanted to pick this one specifically up yet, but I still want to read it at some point. Okay, now we're to May. May we did pretty good. So I have Undulate by Elodie Hart. This is the second book in, I think it's the Alchemy series, and it's like a co-worker's age gap single dad romance. I loved it. Unfurl, the first one, is still my favorite, but I really, really enjoyed this one a lot. And Her Master's Teacher by Lily White, another book club book. So much darker than I thought it was going to be. I didn't realize that this was, again, like a captor-captive romance. I genuinely thought it was this dude hooking up with his professor. Literally, no, he kidnaps her. I did really enjoy it, but it just did not go the direction that I thought it would at all. Then Close Quarters by Candy Steiner. I did read this one. I love Below Deck, and I was in my Below Deck mood back when I read this. However, I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I'd recommend it, but it's one that it's like, it's definitely not my favorite Candy Steiner book. And I think my biggest issue was the heroine. I found her quite boring. All she wanted to do was sit by herself, which is fine. I love sitting by myself too. But in a book, that's not the most fun thing to read about. Then Snow by Sophie Lark. I'm really disappointed that I didn't love this one. This is actually probably my least favorite Sophie Lark book that I've read. It's a boxer romance, and I just felt zero chemistry between these two characters, and I felt like it actually moved pretty quickly between the two of them. And I don't know, I know this is some people's like favorite of this series. I don't know, it just didn't really work for me. I didn't love them. I thought that they were fine, but yeah. Then I read Between Hello and Goodbye by Emma Scott. I loved this one. Really, really beautiful. And yeah, I don't have much else to say. My Life in Shambles, already talked about that one. The Brit by Jodi Ellen Malpas. I still have not read this book. And I've had it on my TBR literally since like last year. I put it on multiple TBRs. I think the thing is, it's huge. It's an intimidating book because I think it's like 600 pages, and I know it's really dark. It's captive, it's mafia, which like I'm not like scared away by dark books, but even like people who know what I read have like been like, oh, that book's really dark. And I'm like, is it for me? I don't know. I still want to read it at some point. I know Tori loves it, but we'll see when I get around to it. I need to be in the mood for a thick boy, I think. Then Pestilence by Laura Thalassa. So I didn't read this in May, but I just read it like last week and I really enjoyed it. However, it got a little repetitive for me, but I think the concept is interesting and I definitely will continue on with the rest of the series. Then The Reluctant Bride by Monica Murphy. I did read this one. I listened to the audiobook and I really enjoyed it. It's an arranged marriage romance and they're obviously reluctant about it. And I enjoyed it. It was fun. Next, Secret Puck by Rebecca Genshak. Another hockey romance I haven't read because I've just, again, not been in the mood for hockey, but I keep putting them on my TBRs. Addictive by Lola Finn. This is the first book in the Haven Cove series, and actually I don't know why I put this one on there because I'm actually not that interested in it, and you don't have to read these in order, so I probably actually won't ever read this one. However, I have read other ones in that series and just have like really enjoyed my time with them. Good Guys Don't Lie by Macaulay Smelter, the fourth book in the boys series. I still haven't read this yet. I still really want to. I have not read the fourth or fifth books. And I still will catch up on them eventually, just for right now, I still haven't gotten around to it. Then Alphas Like Us by Kristen Becker-Ritchie, the third book in the Like Us series, my favorite of Mafia and Pharaoh's books that I've read so far. Absolutely loved it. One of my top books of the year. And the last one for May was Last Resort by Kane Bromberg. I read this one for a reading vlog where I was reading new to me Book Bonanza authors. It was fine. I was just not in the mood for it at all. Like, there's nothing against this book. It's just my mood personally. I just wasn't in the mood for it, but it was like a fine book. Like, I would still recommend it. It just wasn't like what I wanted at the time. Okay, now we got June, where, spoiler alert, I barely read any of my TBR. So first up was Phil by H.A. Stollard, Father-in-Law. This was a book club pick and I DNF'd it. I really tried. I really did. I couldn't do it. I was not clicking with this writing style. I have a really big, this is a me problem. I hate the overuse of exclamation points in writing, like exclamation marks, and there were so many exclamation marks. Literally the first sentence of the book had an exclamation mark at the end and I was like, okay, I don't know about this, and I DNF'd. Next up, The Wicked by Rosie Alice. Again, another book club pick. Absolutely loved this one. It's a student teacher one and then ends up being like second chance. Super toxic, was blown away. I absolutely loved it. Shut Out by Avery Keelan. I still have not read this one. I still really want to. It's a high priority one of mine. But again, and actually I think the size of this one is a little bit more manageable because at first I was like, I'm going to put it on here because I want to read it. But also I can't do another long book right now. However, this one I think is way more manageable. Like Offside is like almost 600 pages. I think this one is like around the 350 mark, which is like way more doable for me. Next up, Keep Her Safe by QB Tyler. Read it, loved it. A new QB daddy is here and I appreciate it. Then Frost by Liza James. I still have not read this one. I still really want to, just haven't gotten around to it. Headstrong Like Us by Kristen Becker-Ritchie, the sixth book in the Like Us series. I haven't read it. I needed a little bit of a break of that series. I still think I'll probably finish it by the end of the year because I've absolutely loved it, but just I needed like a little bit of a break from it. Next, I read The Heir by Sophie Lark. This is the first book in the Kingmakers series, and I did read this one and I enjoyed it. I think I went into it with really high expectations, so I wasn't like let down. It was more, I was kind of like, I don't know. I think I still like the parents' books more. Granted, I'm still going to keep going with this series. Like I literally have The Rebel sitting over there in the living room, but I don't know. I didn't love it as much as like the parents' books yet. And then the rest of these I haven't read yet. So I'm going to list them off quickly because I don't have anything to say about them. By Virtue I Fall by Cora Riley. Still haven't read this. I think because I'm still kind of like upset about the first two books in the series and how bad they were. They aren't like objectively bad books. I just personally didn't like them. Wrecked by Lauren Asher. Still want to read it, still haven't. Gravity by Sarah Kate. I actually started this one like last year and then I just wasn't in the mood for it, never finished. I still want to read it. Like it's not a DNF, it's more just like a not now, but still want to read it. Her Soul for Revenge by Harley LaRue. Still really want to read it. Truth or Dare by Danielle Allen. Still really want to read it. My Darling Arrow by Saffron Kent. Still really want to read it. And honestly, one of the higher priority items for me off of this list. And Twisted by Emily McIntyre. I still really want to read this one. However, I am waiting for, I think, the audiobook. I could read it physically, but I'm waiting for Hoopla to get the audiobook of it because I've just, like I said, when I talked about Wretched, I just have really liked the audiobooks. And now for my 23 books to read in 2023. We're gonna kind of rapid fire this because again, I haven't read a lot. Actually, you know what? I think I might be doing better on it this year than I did last year. So actually, good for me. Enamored by Gianna Darling. Y'all are gonna hate me for how often I put this on TBRs and still haven't read it. I still haven't. I still love Enthralled, just haven't read it yet. Untouchable by Sam Mariano. Did read and talked about. Take Me With You by Nina G. Jones. Loved. Will be a top book of my year. And yeah, so good. Manic by Amo Jones. Still haven't read. A Place Without You by Julianne. Did read and talked about. Don't Kiss the Bride by Carrie Ann Cole and Tied by Carrie Ann Cole. I haven't read either of these, but I'm currently reading a different Carrie Ann Cole book that I don't have on here, which now I'm kind of mad because then I don't get to do the little check mark. But I still haven't read either of these. We'll see if I'm going to read any more Carrie Ann Cole books, honestly, guys. I don't know. Pestilence by Laura Thalassa. Did read. Grip by Kennedy Ryan. Still haven't read. It's still a high priority for me. Loving Mr. Daniels by Brittany C. Cherry. Did read. My Darling Arrow by Saffron Kent. Nope. Something in the Way by Jessica Hawkins. I did read. This was the very last book I finished at the end of 2022. I literally finished it on like December 31st. So technically I didn't read it this year, but I did finish it. Sinner by Sierra Simone. Read it. Without You by Marley Valentine. Check. Lotus by Jennifer Hartman, still haven't read. The Predator by Runix, still haven't read. It Ain't Me Babe by Tilly Cole, still haven't read, but still really want to. I still want to read all those. Music Lights and Ever After by Celine Matthews, I did read it. The Forbidden Man by Karina Halley, still want to read. Born Darkly by Trisha Wolfe, still really want to read. The Man I Can't Have by Shanora Williams, still want to read. Restore Me by J.L. Seegers, still want to read. And Anastasia by Sophie Lark, still want to read, but honestly probably towards the bottom of my priority list. I haven't heard great things about it. I know that's hard because I don't want to be like so influenced by other people, but I don't know. And also it's huge. It's like 800 pages and I heard that it spends a lot of time with them as children, which I don't love. So I don't know. We'll see about that one. But anyways, that is how I'm doing on my TBRs so far this year. How are y'all doing on your TBRs? I feel like a lot of us are struggling this year, but you know what? Let's all give ourselves grace. Reading's supposed to be fun. So anyways, that is it for today's video and I will see you when I see ya.